Nipples. I don't know. I don't know how I turned out to be this type of person. I don't know. All right, let's start with the first story, and this is interesting because it plays into the idea that the video game industry is changing and we're going to a more live service future, but now the series producer of Tekken has some words that he said on a podcast that I think you guys would find interesting. We all know that the shooter genre has been affected by the changes that we've seen in the video game industry, and it's more swayed to a live service model. But now we're starting to see, yeah, guess what? The fighting genre is also going in that direction. Here's what the series producer of Tekken had to say on a podcast, and it's bad news for anybody out there that likes single-player games, because everything is changing. Tekken series producer says that he feels that younger players prefer to play on team-based games because, and I quote, it gives them less responsibility if they lose. He goes on to say that, yeah, that's why the fighting genre is going to have to change, and he kind of explains what he's talking about right here. Now, he brings up a good point here, and I do agree with him, that if you're in Japan and you're trying to get a job or you're trying to apply for school, if you're in your 50s, you know everything is highly competitive. If you're trying to get that job or you're trying to get into school, there's thousands of other people trying to get that job, and he's saying that essentially the giant chunk of the population has been made to be a competitive one, and I totally agree with what he is saying here, and that plays into the future of the genre that he's producing. This fighting genre has always been known as a one-on-one genre. It was always about one player versus the other player, but now I kind of agree where he's headed here with this. He says that most players nowadays are the opposite of that, and they rarely want to engage on one-on-one battles in video games because fighting games, they're one-on-one. You can't escape that. And he's basically saying that they have to accept all responsibility in a fighting game for their loss. But they don't like to do that. He goes on to say in team-based shooters, when they win, they can say, well, it was obviously partly my doing. But when they lose, they can blame the lousy team that they were put on. Now, don't worry right away here. He does go on to say that we're not going to suddenly turn a fighting game into a puzzle game or a real-time strategy game. Don't worry about that. But he does say that he thinks there's demand, but they're going to have to evolve the genre to really survive, which is a shame. I find the most interesting part being the fact that he's going to introduce a 3v3 mode into Tekken. However, how is it going to implement into the overall rankings? He's talking about, yes, we will have to introduce a 3-on-3 ranking system that will be part of the official leaderboards. But to the fighters out there that are watching this is going to be tricky because we have the 1v1, we also have the 3 versus 3 now. How far are they going to cross the line? Are you going to have to really be able to be playing on a team to get a higher ranking when you're 1v1? Is the 3 versus 3 rankings going to mix with the 1v1 stats? That's where this gets really interesting. And I'd also say kind of depressing. I think that they need to split this off, make it its own mode on this side of the fence, and make the 1v1 what it is now. That's why the genre is massive, because it is a competitive genre. If you start mixing these things together, like he's kind of implying here that they might do, I think we lose a little sense of that competitive nature. But he's also saying that the younger players coming up, they don't want to take the responsibility for losing a match. So how do you feel about this? Do you feel that maybe you have kids and you notice this while they're playing their games? Me personally, I play a game, I suck at it, I go, well, I'd like to win, but I don't really get into a match and say that it was my teammates, unless it was my teammates. If they suck, they suck. Now, the next story is just a quick one, and it's kind of an add-on to the videos I was doing last month. The video game industry is in deep shit, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one, but here's some sad news coming out of Gearbox Software. Guess what? They laid people off. As we all know, Embracer Group was this company that was just eating up studios. One of the studios that they bought was Gearbox Software, but last week they sold Gearbox Software for $460 million To guess who? Guess who they sold it to? Take-Two Interactive, the guys that own Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. I would love to see a Borderlands Grand Theft Auto crossover. Keep that in mind. Now, the sad news comes in after the deal was closed. Tons of Gearbox employees took to Twitter to say that they were laid off. In a statement to Eurogamer, Gearbox states that an unknown number of employees have been let go, but those affected were not tied to, well, listen, it's very important to know that like nobody was fired that was really needed. We just fired people that were just like hanging on by a thread. So they do confirm that nobody let go was part of the Borderlands new game development. So don't worry about that. And of course they drop the usual bullshit statement that all of these companies drop when they let people go, as we strive towards our mission to entertain the world. Oh, brother. We are grateful for the talent and the audience and the interest and the blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's always the same bullshit that come out of the companies when they let people go. Now, I just want to make fun of Embracer Group for a second. They bought Gearbox back in 2021 for $1.3 billion. Stupid. Let me guess, next week I'll be reporting on another company that laid off undisclosed amounts of people. That's just how the gaming industry is at the moment. And it's not looking good. Check out what my mom got me. She gave it to me on stream last week. I stream every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the show. And this Sunday, I'm gonna be making amazing handheld snacks. We're gonna be making pizza bombs. So don't miss that. It's a multi-cam stream where I essentially make the best Italian food you've ever seen in your life. I'll see you there Sunday.